The following is a special presentation of ESPN on ABC.
The view of downtown Milwaukee from the State Fairgrounds, home of the Milwaukee Mile, where fans have been filing through the turnstile since 1912. All of them coming to watch the stars of open wheel racing. Today's group follow in the footsteps of Foyt, Andretti, Unser, and Rutherford. It is the stars of the IndyCars at the Milwaukee Mile for 225 laps. Can he put a period on this storybook ending? Hollywood could not write this script. Now he becomes a three-time winner of the biggest race in the world. Helio Castroneves wins at Indy. Well, and sometimes the sequel just isn't as good as the original. This was yesterday in qualifying for Helio, and yeah, he hit the wall and will start in the very back of the field. He was trying to take the pole from his teammate, Ryan Briscoe. You can see the car step out on him. And that's all she wrote. The frustration on the crew and on Helio as he'll be in the back of the field. Let's check in with Jack Arute.
It's been a magical week since Helio Castroneves visited Victory Lane for the third time in the Indy 500. But what happened yesterday, Helio?
Yeah, unfortunately, trying too fast too soon, I would say. It's one of those things you feel the car is good, and unfortunately, because you have 4 laps and you're not sure what the car is going to do, you gotta sometimes take a chance. And this time, it didn't pay off. But we have a good car. We can see Ryan right up there on pole position. So we're gonna be, we're hopefully going to be trying to get there, and it'll be a good day for points for sure.
You've won the Indy 500 now. If you have to race for points or race for the win, what will Helio Castroneves do today especially?
Well, for sure, starting on the back, this is not a place that is easy to pass. It's kind of like a road course. So we got to think about conservative points, and that's where we're going to go for it.
Marty, job number 1 is done. He's the Indy 500 champion. Now it's a chase for a championship.
Thanks, Jack. And as we take a look at the points race, you can see exactly why Helio is so concerned. He's only 5 markers behind Dario Franchitti, but remember, he has 1 less race in hand. He'd missed the first event of the season. And also, the last 4 Indy 500 champs have gone on to win the series, so the tradition is certainly there. But when was the last time you heard a driver, when you gets asked the question, are you going to race points or are you going to go for the win? They always say, oh, no, I'm just going to race for the win. It's refreshing to hear Helio say the championship means everything.
It really does. You know, he's not won the championship, but he's won everything else in this series. And it was interesting to speak to him this morning as we did and really hear heartfelt that I'm after the championship. And something he said, if I have a car that's able to finish 2nd or 3rd, I'm going to finish 2nd or 3rd. I don't believe it, because Helio Castroneves has been successful because he's very hungry for the win. Today will be interesting to see if he follows through on his plan.
Absolutely, because when he's been hungry for the win, he's finished 2nd in the championship. When we come back, we'll focus on Ryan Briscoe. He's already won once this year at St. Petersburg, and he's looking to make it 2 years in a row here at Milwaukee.
ESPN's coverage of the IndyCar Series on ABC, brought to you by Izod Indy, the official apparel sponsor of the IndyCar Series, Firestone, the first name in Indy racing, and Apex Brazil. Experience our energy.
Ryan Briscoe won this race last year, but it almost didn't happen because of this late 3-car crash involving Marco Andretti, Ed Carpenter, and Vitor Meira. Notice the number 6 just sliding on past. It was his first win, and Brian Pettigo talks to last year's winner right now.
Starting from the pole, Ryan Briscoe, this is where it all began, where you got your very first IndyCar Series win. This race was a big turning point for you. How different is your outlook today compared to before the green flag dropped last year?
Well, you know, certainly come a long way and been gaining a lot of experience. I think the win last year here was a huge turning point for me, a big confidence boost, and we really kicked off our season last year from this point. So it's really exciting to be back here, really exciting to be on the pole, and hopefully we can follow it up with another win. But just really looking forward to a nice race. So we got beautiful weather. Just want to have a good solid race, and hopefully we can get that win.
Ryan is on the pole, his teammate Elio, the other bookend on the field, so this should be a pretty exciting start.
It will be exciting. It was certainly exciting last week at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, except if you were on the receiving end of any of the 8 caution periods that we had. That's Graham Rahal going into the wall in turn 4. The hard hit by Tony Kanaan. More on Tony in just a moment. As you can see, the second impact really hard. Take a look at where everybody who crashed last week that's in the day's race is going to start. Graham Rahal, great qualifying effort for the second year in a row. He'll be on the outside of the front row. Tony Kanaan will be in third with Mario Moraes, Rafael Matos, all in the top 10. Let's check in with TK, and Vince Welch is with him.
It was a massive impact at Indianapolis for Tony Kanaan. 175 Gs, hit the wall at 195 mile per hour. What will be the most challenging aspect for you physically today, considering your pain in this event?
Well, apart from the pressure on my ribs, I would say the 3 pit stops. Every time they drop the car with the full load of fuel, it looks like I'm crashing into the wall again. So it's going to be tough. It's a big challenge for me, Vince, but again, I can't thank the safety crew and the guys at St. Vincent enough for putting me back here. So we just, like you said, we talked about before the interview, we might need a little bit of a handicap sticker in there, but I think we'll be okay.
Tony Kanaan, he's won here twice before. He'll try to get another one today. Jack?
It's been a steady drive for Danica Patrick, and at the Indy 500, a third-place finish. But I wonder, how important are perfect pit stops here today, Danica?
I watched last year's race, and I think I went to almost dead last after the first pit stop because it's so tight in the pit lane here. We've got a little bit more room than last year because we've got a little less car count. So, but pit stops are critical. I mean, especially if we go under green and do a pit stop. You know, a second around here is a long way. So, pit stops are going to be vital.
Good luck today.
Thank you.
A heartbreaking weekend at Indianapolis for Marco Andretti, and now at Milwaukee trying to erase those memories. How difficult of a week was it for you before this race here today?
Yeah, it definitely was a long week. I think we're just glad to have another shot today. You know, we love to be in the race car, you know, and have another shot at it. So, you know, we're hoping the Venom car is going to be pretty strong today because the majority of the weekend I really just worked on the race car, so we'll see.
Where do things stand between you and Mario Moraes?
Well, I just think, you know, both of us didn't want any part of that. We both didn't want that to happen. So, you know, it's no reason to really talk to him because if he didn't know I was there, he didn't know I was there. So he didn't want that to happen, neither did I.
Marco Andretti looking for a better day today.
Well, there was one other guy that we need to talk about, and that's Vitor Meira. You want to talk about a bad day. This is what happened in the pit lane fire. And what was most remarkable, other than the quick reaction from all the crew workers getting the flames extinguished, was the fact that Vitor went back out onto the racetrack, and maybe he shouldn't have, because it went from bad to worse when Rafael Matos and Vitor came together heading into turn number 1, and a ride like none of us have ever seen before. When we come back, we'll get an update on Vitor's condition and the man replacing him. Take a look at the crowd here at the Milwaukee Mile under perfect conditions as we're getting ready for 225 laps around this storied oval. As we said, they've been racing here since 1912. As we get ready for the engines to fire, let's check in, get an update on Vitor Meira from Jack Arute.
Well, Vitor Meira has been checked out of the Methodist Hospital, and he is recuperating with the fractures in his back. And lo and behold, for A.J. Foyt and ABC Supply, you tapped Paul Tracy for this one, A.J. What do you see in him that you like?
Well, you know, we hate that we don't have Vitor. He's our primary driver all year. It's a shame what happened in Indy, but, you know, racing goes on with or without you, same as when I got hurt real bad, and he's still our super driver. We think the world of him, and, you know, we're just lucky to get somebody like Paul Tracy to step in for him, and we're really glad of that.
Now, you've won a lot of races here, and so has PT. What were the last things you said to your Canadian driver?
Well, we kind of screwed him up qualifying, so I told him hurry every chance he gets.
Good luck, AJ.
Thank you.
In just a moment, Brian Pedigo, he'll be giving the command to start engines in the ABC Supply A.J. Foyt 225.
Jack, last week at Indy, the Ganassi camp had some uncharacteristic and costly mistakes in the pits. For Dario, it was a miscue, sent him out of the pits with the fuel hose still attached. And for Dixon, a wheel nut problem basically cost him the race. Here in Milwaukee, where you have 2 to 3 stops total, they have got to be perfect. If you want to win today, drivers and the crews have got to bring their A game.
And as you can see, the crews, and notice the different paint scheme on the number 10 as Dario Franchitti, a sort of a green color for this race here at the Milwaukee Mile. Of course, there is our pole sitter, Ryan Briscoe, looking to go back-to-back after he turned around his season at this very track just last year. And the man at the very tail end of the field, starting 20th and dead last, Helio Castroneves. And you heard him just a few moments ago talk about the fact he was just going to try and score as many points as he could today. It's all about the championship from here on out. Tony Kanaan's ribs, it's going to be incredibly strong for this guy to make it the entire race. He is in a lot more pain than he is letting everyone know. As he gets ready for the command, we do so as well. And you heard the fact that it would be A.J. Foyt. He has 4 wins at this racetrack among his storied career. Let's go trackside.
Race fans, it's time. Please welcome, for the most famous words in motorsports, a true American legend, ABC Supply A.J. Foyt 225 Grand Marshal, A.J. Foyt.
Looking into the eyes of Graham Rahal there, out the back now of the 21 of Ryan Hunter-Reay. The view from Danica Patrick's car as the engines all come to life. Let's take a look at our starting grid across the top of your screen. A 20-car field, originally 21, but Stanton Barrett crashed in the first practice session yesterday. They did not have enough spare parts to make all the necessary repairs. We mentioned second year in a row, Rahal's going to start on the outside of row number 1.
Yeah, he didn't last very long. Last year in the event, he has to make sure he gets through turn 4. It's been his problem both at Indianapolis and here at Milwaukee, and he certainly knows that. His team will help him throughout the race today also.
Cars pull off from pit lane, and it's a long way to the back of the field. And the number 3 of Helio Castroneves, as there he is, the last one to come out onto the racetrack. And it will be fun. We have an onboard camera with him, as there it is, and we'll be watching him try and carve his way towards the front.
And we had that conversation with him this morning. On the original start here, you are not allowed to pass any cars in front of you until you go past the start line. It is a different rule for restarts. Once it goes green, you can pass a car anywhere on the race course. The hardship for Helio right now, being a race car driver, is that he's going to be so anxious to get going, he's going to have to make sure he waits until he comes all the way around to the start line before he takes that green.
That's just one of our 7 onboard cameras for today's race. Let's give you a sneak peek at the other 6 that we have for you, and you can see across the top Dan Weldon, who finished second last week at the 500, third place finisher Danica Patrick, EJ Vizo, Ed Carpenter, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and Marco Andretti. So there are the 7 total, with Helio being the 7th in that mix, as we are just about ready to go green flag racing. Now, we have 2 laps, as we've been told, before we go green. What we're going to do for you is we're going to do what we call a double box. You'll have a picture of what's going on at the front of the field, but we're also going to show you the onboard situation, and also from one of our high cameras of Helio trying to work his way from the very back of the pack. So hopefully we'll be able to capture both ends of this exciting start.
And there again, patience for Helio. He'll know the race is starting. The guys in front are moving away from him, but he has to wait until he comes around to that line before he starts the pass. The hardest thing for a race car driver to do.
Here's the margin all the way back. As you can see, they haven't tightened up yet. Helio right behind alongside the bright yellow car of Ed Carpenter. Let's talk a little bit about Tony Kanaan. He's going to be starting 3rd today. he is in some severe pain.
And he actually met with Dr. Mike Olinger to turn around and get a shot to give him some pain medicine. Hopefully that will last him for the 225 laps here today. He said, I may not be able to get out of the car at the end of the day, but I won't feel any pain inside of it.
It's actually Torvol. It's an anti-inflammatory. It doesn't affect his driving capabilities. There's our two-box setup with Elio's on board on the right. The field forms up on the left. It is Ryan Hunter-Reay Ryan Briscoe bringing him out of turn number 4. Ryan Hunter-Reay would love to bring him out of turn 4 as we get ready, and we are green at Milwaukee. Look at Tony Kanaan on the move early. Elio, he picked up one spot, but he got on the high side there. It looks like he lost another one on the right side of the screen.
Remember, Elio is driving a car that has lots of repairs after that accident from qualifying yesterday. And for Tony Kanaan, certainly a guy that's putting his foot on the gas as Elio starts to move up through the pack.
He has picked up 3 positions so far here on 1 lap. So on board right now, you can see the view out the back. That's Justin Wilson right behind him in the 18. Right in front of him is E.J. Vizo in the 13. Let's go back to the front of the field. You can see Danica Patrick and Hideki Muto, the teammates in the 7 and 27 respectively, and we go on board with Danica. She is running in 9th right now, looking ahead to 8th.
2 different lines there with Danica going on the low line. Hideki Muto just up in front. Now looking to make a move on Mario Morais. Is going to look on the inside in turn 1.
Can't get it done, falls back into position. Let's go back up front because I don't know about you, but I'm extremely impressed with Tony Kanaan's early move to manage to get around the very quick Ryan Briscoe.
I'm very impressed because I have driven race cars before with pain, maybe not as much pain as Tony is having and experiencing right now, so that's very impressive. As we watch Dario Franchitti now starting to look on the inside of Thomas Scheckter.
Yeah, Scheckter started 10th and has already worked his way up to 5th in his 100th IndyCar start today. And he is holding on to the station ahead of the number 10 of Dario Franchitti.
It's interesting to watch to see how the cars work differently on both ends of the racetrack as Franchitti now in this TomTom sponsored machine is trying to get the inside line going through turns 1 and 2.
And he's got it, Vince Welch.
Dario Franchitti was not happy at all with the way they qualified. He said, we've got a much faster race car than qualifying for the 8th position. And in fact, after qualifying, the team discovered a mechanical issue with the car. They said that certainly starting 8th isn't going to kill them today, but boy, if they would not have discovered that mechanical after qualifying, it would have made for a very long day today. Jackaroo?
Vince Thomas Scheckter was a late add to this team after the Indy 500. He came here full of anticipation, but when the first practice was green flagged, his car was under the tarp being repaired. It seemed they had a fuel pump problem that required them to pull the engine because it's a cam-driven fuel pump. He did get out in the second practice session, as now Morais is challenging Scheckter for position, guys.
And Morais takes the position, so move Morais up to 6th, Scheckter back to 7th, and right behind is Hideki Muto, and Muto's looking to get around, as is his teammate Danica Patrick. So the laps flying by quickly. We've already completed 7, and there goes Hideki underneath the 23 of Thomas Scheckter, and here comes Danica diving for turn 1.
And that's the spotters that you hear radioing down to their drivers. They are standing up in turn 1, can see the complete track from their vantage point, and giving them a little bit of help as Danica just dives on the inside of 3 and 4. Nice move.
Well, she stuck it in there and made it stick and takes the position. So move Danica up a position to 8th, move Scheckter back to 9th. Take a look at Tony Kanaan, second race that he's led this year. You know, Andretti Green has only led 15 total laps at the beginning of this event. We're going side by side. An injured Tony Kanaan took the lead from the very drop of the green flag, and he has led all 17 of 225 laps that will run here at the Milwaukee Mile. Right behind him is our pole sitter, Ryan Briscoe. And then in 3rd, it is Graham Rahal, and all of a sudden, Briscoe feeling a little frisky, wants to take a look on the inside, can't make it stick, as he gets no closer than about a car length and a half, and then falls back a little bit further. Also in 4th place, we'll let you know it is Scott Dixon and his teammate on target, Chip Ganassi Racing. Dario Franchitti rounding out your top 5. In case you're wondering what's going on with Elio, there he is going around Paul Tracy. That is for 18th position. That's right, 18th. What's going on, Vince?
Elio Castroneves has not said anything on the radio in regards to how his race car is handling, but Tim Cindric, who handles the strategy for Elio, did come on and remind Elio a moment ago to use your tools. I think you would have expected Castroneves to move up a little bit quicker, but one thing when you're starting at the back of the field with a faster car like Elio has, got to be very careful to not get caught up in something nasty and into your day quickly. So Elio being patient here at the start.
And we've got the leaders coming up on the 2 cars that are in the back of the field. They're battling for position, the 20 and the 14. Ed Carpenter gets around Paul Tracy, and Tracy right behind him has our race leader, Tony Kanaan.
When I spoke to Ed Carpenter at drivers meeting this morning, he says, I know the car is not very fast, but I have to make sure I have an opportunity to stay in the lead lap. And you can see Graham Rahal right now trying to take advantage of some traffic up in front, Marty, and have a look on Ryan Briscoe.
Can't get the job done, though, as Briscoe cuts back in front. Tracy gets out of the way and allows those 2 to continue through. Jack, you've got more on Graham?
Yeah, Marty, just before the race, John Tzanickas, who calls the shots for Graham Rahal, took his young driver aside in the hauler and sat him down and preached to him patience. He tried to explain to him that what happened at Indianapolis is the exact same thing that happened to him 1 year ago here, that he ran out of patience too early in the race. He said, Graham, look, it's 225 laps. Some guys are going to pass you. You're going to pass other guys. He said, what you need to do is just ride out the first part of the race and then go racing with about 50 laps to go. They have constantly been on the radio reminding him of patience, especially in this heavy race traffic he's working in.
And while all that was going on, Scott Dixon was able to get around Rahal and move into 3rd position. So it is Tony Kanaan out in front by half a second over Ryan Briscoe. Then Dixon is a full second off of the lead. And a little bit further back, as you see, there is Danica Patrick going around the lap traffic of Paul Tracy. As Brienne, you've got more?
Marty, lately, Danica Patrick and her team have been on a roll. She's the only driver in today's field that can say she's finished in the top 5 in each of the last 3 events in the IndyCar Series. Right now, she's looking for a little more speed. They're already playing around with fuel position. She seems to be struggling a bit to get by her teammate, Hideki Muto. In fact, she radioed in just a moment ago and said, he's my teammate. He doesn't really need to come down in the corners.
And take a look now as we go to the race lead, and Ryan Briscoe into turns 1 and 2 takes over the top spot from Tony Kanaan. And here comes Scott Dixon.
Tony got caught out a little bit, lost a little bit of momentum that allowed Dixon to get past. And as the race has been progressing, you've seen 2 different lines between Ryan Briscoe and Tony Kanaan. And in that opportunity, Briscoe was able to take the lead.
Vince, you've got more on Briscoe?
One thing with Ryan Briscoe is, of course, when he came to the IndyCar Series, he was known more as a road course specialist. And it's interesting, this is definitely not a road course. It's an oval, of course. You know that, a 1 mile oval. But it has a lot of road course characteristics. And maybe Scott Goodyear could explain more about that. But one thing that Rick Mears reminded Briscoe of just before the start of this race, the wind is coming from a completely different direction. The car is going to be much freer in turn 2 today than it's been all weekend.
And as we watch Briscoe right now from Ed Carpenter's car, Ed Carpenter is working as hard as he can to stay on this lead lap. Does not really have the car or the speed for it, but he knows that the leaders are coming, and I can assure you he's pedaling that thing as fast as possible.
And Tony Kanaan's got his hands full a little bit further back with Graham Rahal. Rahal's looking to the low side. Still needs to tighten it up just a little bit more. That is a battle for 3rd position on this 1 mile layout here at Milwaukee. And right behind Rahal, you saw the number 10 of Dario Franchitti. So Ryan Briscoe has now led 4 of 5 races this season. The only one he failed to lead was at Long Beach. And so as we get ready to send you to our local ABC stations, there's a look at the top 5 after 29 of 225 laps. It's Ryan Briscoe out in front. Back here at the Milwaukee Mile, notice at the front of that pack, that's the number 3 of Elio Castroneves. He's just gotten around Justin Wilson, and that is for position. Unfortunately for Elio, it's 17th. Here comes your race leader, Ryan Briscoe, in the number 6 Penske machine. As he has gotten around Justin, that means that now there are 17 cars on the lead lap, and his teammate is the next target.
And that's not what he wants to see in the mirror. Now, he certainly knows that he's pushing as hard as possible. The car's not working well for him. Remember, he crashed in qualifying. The car has been repaired. Did not get a chance to try it before he got back into the race here. But usually Penske gets it right whenever they make a change like that.
Let's check in with Vince Welch. You caught up with Tim Cindric?
Tim, what's the issue with Elio? We would have anticipated he'd be moving through the field quicker.
Well, he hadn't driven this car since he crashed yesterday, so he took a little conservative there at the start. We're just trying to stay on the lead lap here, but the car's okay. We just need to get out of traffic here.
Can you afford to fall down in a lap here early on?
No, you don't want to go a lap down at all, so we'll do everything we can to stay on the lead lap or try and get it back if we go a lap down here. Try not to stay in Briscoe's way, but there's a balance there.
There you got it, Marty.
All right, thanks, Vince. You know, while you were finishing up, we're checking the scoreboard, and Tony Kanaan is dropping as he has dropped all the way back to 8th. More on that in a moment. Let's get you started with baseball action. 2 nights of Major League action, in fact. First at 8 Eastern on Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. It's the Dodgers and the Cubs. And Monday Night Baseball at 7 Eastern, as it's the Yankees and the Indians. ESPN News will be shown in the New York market tomorrow night. So there you see Elio Castroneves trying to hold on to the lead lap. Let's follow or fall back a little bit further to Tony Kanaan, as he has been passed now by Danica Patrick, Rafael Matos, and Mario Moraes, and he is now back in 9th position.
And you know, when he comes out of the turn, you can look at the angle of his head, and it seems like it's leaned over in the cockpit more than usual. Is that just a situation because he's just trying to hold himself up with all the pain that he has inside there? You can see his head's just tilted to the right more than what I've seen usually.
He is, without a doubt, the most physically fit guy in this driver group. Vince, what's going on?
The car has gotten way loose. They're trying to get Tony Kanaan to work on the race car, of course, with his tools inside the weight jacker and shifting weight around with inside the car, but there's only so much you can do, and right now Kanaan has got his hands full, and of course, as you see, a pass for the lead as Scott Dixon tries to make the move inside but is held off. So Kanaan is going backwards, Dixon going forwards.
And he is all over the 6th car, and now he's going to look to the high side. Will he give him room on the outside?
You know, I'm wondering if Ryan's trying to run just a fast enough pace to keep in front of Dixon, but make sure that he's not going to pass his teammate to allow his teammate to be on the lead lap. But that might just catch him out.
I'm not sure. Yeah, that could end up backfiring on both of them. As you can see, that's Robert Dornbos in the red, number 06. That's right in front of Elio. He's trying to keep his pace moving. Here comes the 6 of Ryan Briscoe, who is the race leader. You're back on board with Elio, looking back at the race leaders.
Briscoe certainly moving his line right now. Listen to the throttle on Elio, who we're on board with right now. Just slow to get back in the throttle, and you can see the teammate behind seems just to pick it up just a little bit quicker. And the Firestone telemetry, let's watch the throttle, the green there, almost all the way down. That's usually not common. And he'll pick up a different gear as he goes down the backstretch. And it looks like he's in fuel confident. He's conserving fuel. I mean, he's only going to 10,000 RPM. You want to go to 10.3. It looks like he's just trying to stay out there and run a different program. Vince Welsh?
Tim Cindric just hit Elio on the radio and said, go to fuel position 1 if you have to. So obviously they're concerned with, as Tim mentioned a moment ago, the balance between dealing with Ryan Briscoe and also dealing with the rest of the field and trying to get position. But just as you mentioned fuel position, Tim Cindric was thinking fuel position as well.
Because he was doing it as a driver also by not using 10,300 RPM and really short shifting into the next higher gear to help conserve fuel.
Take a look at Ryan Briscoe. He goes around Robert Dornbos, and Dornbos now is a lap down in 17th, 16 cars on the lead lap. And there is Scott Dixon trying to get around Dornbos as well. Now remember, Robert come over from Formula One. He is not real experienced on the ovals. While all this was going on, we can tell you that Graham Rahal has dropped a position. Dario Franchitti has gotten around him. There you see it as they come across the start-finish line.
Not hard to miss him in that bright green TomTom GPS machine. It's nice and stands out nicely.
Down the back straightaway, that's Paul Tracy right in front of the 9 of Scott Dixon. He takes the inside line. There is your top 5 after 47 of 225 laps. Ryan Briscoe is your race leader. He won here last year. Can he do it again? Your We're on board with Helio Castroneves, and if you were with us before the break, you heard that the word from pit lane, go to fuel position 1. Since he has done that, Scott Goodyear, he has opened up a margin over the race leader, his teammate Ryan Briscoe.
Just a different strategy, try and just take advantage of running at less fuel and trying to make sure he can stay out there a little longer than everybody else, but it was almost going to cost him a lap. So you heard them say fuel position 1. He's now back to horsepower, and he's now running on pace.
All right, a little bit further back, let's check in with Tony Kanaan as he is running in 9th place. And you can have your questions answered by our analysts with our Boost mobile mailbag. All you have to do is go to ESPN.com and search Ask the Analyst. And the reason we're bringing Tony Kanaan into this because he is our first question in our Boost mobile mailbag. Comes from Jane in Muncie, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Scott. Do you think Tony Kanaan can make it the full race with his injuries?
I would not be surprised to see him come off track before the end of the race, but I know how physically and mentally tough he is. If anybody can do it in this series, certainly Tony is the guy.
And just as you finish up, we have our first caution here on lap 56. We were almost to the pit window for green flag stops, and you can see Mike Conway, the rookie.
Sorry, just got out the marbles. Went down one of the inside. Can go anywhere.
You heard him say he got into the marbles, turn 4.
And that's exactly what we were wondering about right now, because with his long green flag pit stops, all the marbles from the little pieces of rubber off the tires are on the outside of the groove. You heard him say somebody dove on the inside. He had nowhere to go. This certainly helps Helio Castroneves, though, because now he gets to come around and catch up, and he's on the tail end of the lead lap, but no longer about ready to get a lap down.
And they also get to make an adjustment on the race car to try and give him a little more grip, a little more forward bite, and get them back towards the front, as he is currently running in 15th position, the last car on the lead lap. Pit lane is still closed as we're waiting for the pace car to pick up the field over in turn number 2. There's Mike Conway out of the car.
A very bumpy pit lane here, Marty, and this is a place where drivers are always being cautious going through here. As we watch the replay right now, the number 4 machine of Dan Weldon is going to look towards the inside, and it looks like Mike Conway just tries to leave him just a bit too much room, gets himself off that dark area where the groove is, gets him up into the gray, and onto what they call the marbles, those little pieces of rubber that come off the tires during a green flag run. You can see here from the onboard, looking backwards from E.J. Vizo's car, exactly how far offline he was and how it just takes you right up into the wall.
Well, Conway's 4 prior races, his best finish was last week at Indianapolis, where he came home in 18th position. As here comes everybody into pit lane. Let's get down to our Apex Brazil triple pits. Vince Welch, you're up.
Dario Franchitti in that unfamiliar green car on top. Scott Dixon has a big bump just before he goes into his pit box. He said that concerned him today. He wanted to make sure he was not going to have a problem with that. No changes on the 6 car of Briscoe or the 9 of Dixon, but there will be a front wing adjustment on Franchitti's car. All 3 are away at about the same speed in the pit box.
So our first round of pit stops here on lap 59. Take a look at our Apex Brazil race-off pit road, and you can see that Matos, Rafael picks up one, and Helio kills the car in pit lane, and they're having trouble getting it refired.
Well, it's also not in neutral right now. You can see they plugged the starter in the back. They turned it over. The car is moving forward. As he's doing that, he has a button on the steering wheel to put the car in neutral because of the paddle shifters on here. Vince Welch.
Guys, you'll recall they had a shifter problem at Indianapolis as well, and that came to a head when he was leaving the pits during one of his stops at the Indianapolis 500. So I'll get with Tim Cindric and see if that's a similar type of a problem. But again, Helio Castroneves having a problem leaving pit lane, and it's a shifter issue again.
So we continue under our first caution here, and we'll get an update on that situation and see what happened with Helio. And he is, as we said, the last car on the lead lap. Stay with us. We're under caution here at the Milwaukee Mile, lap 62 of 225. And let's talk about the motorsports calendar, because NASCAR now, the Monday Roundtable on ESPN2 will be on at 5 Eastern. And then the NASCAR Nationwide Series will be at Nashville, presented by Pennzoil at 7 Eastern next Saturday on ESPN2. And the INDYCAR Series will be at Texas at 9 o'clock Eastern next Saturday over on reverses. So that gets you updated on what's going to happen there. Now let's update you on what happened with Helio Castroneves. Let's listen in on the radio.
As soon as I went, I think I touched the throttle just a tiny bit because I thought we were ready to go. And when we were ready to go, I gave gas. Nothing there.
Guys, that sounds a lot like the conversation they also had at Indianapolis, but I just asked Tim Cindric if it was the same problem they had at Indy, and he said no. He said, we believe that it's just simply he didn't have the revs up high enough when it was time to go. We don't believe it's the same issue that we had at Indianapolis, but there's no question the start of this race has not gone the way Helio Castroneves and Team Penske would like.
Well, as you see, Helio will tell you that, of course, Mike Conway's out of the race with the crash. EJ Viso is still in pit lane. We'll be back with more after this message from our ABC stations. Back here at the Milwaukee Mile, you can see on the starters platform, we are getting ready to go back to green flag racing. Let's reset it for you. We have a total of 14 cars on the lead lap. EJ Viso is still in the pit lane. Mike Conway is out. It is Ryan Briscoe, Scott Dixon, Dario Franchitti, Graham Rahal, and Hideki Muto. That is your top 5 as they come flying out of turn number 4. And our winner from last year is trying to pull away as we go back to green flag racing. Danica Patrick making a move on her teammate Hideki Muto, takes over the 5th position. And here comes the teammates from Ganassi Racing. The 10 of Dario Franchitti takes a look inside.
Briscoe just got a brilliant start, was on the gas all the way into 3, carried the momentum out, and got a jump on him. That's exactly what he wants, Marty, because he's got clear track ahead of him. He wants to try and pull away and make a bit of a gap between him and second place, Scott Dixon.
You see the gap. There is Graham Rahal right behind the 10 of Dario Franchitti. Then it is Hideki Muto as he has gotten back around Danica Patrick. Let's get an update on Graham Rahal, Jack.
Yeah, Marty, throughout the course of the race, he has been saying that the car has got a slight understeer. They asked if they wanted to make any changes during the pit stop. He said no, they did not add any wing. But Scott, they did go and make a change in the right rear tire pressure, trying to maybe not take all the understeer away, but to try and reduce its effects in traffic.
And Jack, that's great information because you just want to do small amounts of changes. As the pressure starts to build up, the car will handle differently. He'll need to report back on that as the run goes.
Let's check in once again with Tony Kanaan. There is the number 11 machine. He has got Ed Carpenter, who is 1 lap down right now, and Tony in 9th position as he started and led for 25 laps. And of course, we've talked a lot about his injury. We talked to him about it.
Right now, it feels like the worst time I've ever had, or the worst accident I ever had. Which, you know, people say, well, you broke your arm, you know, but to me, it feels, I'm not going to be 100%, but, you know, we can manage.
I'll tell you what, he is tough as nails. If anybody can do it, it will be that man in the number 11, Tony Kanaan. Again, he looks at the lap traffic of Ed Carpenter, and this time gets the job done, and Dan Weldon's right behind him.
Remember, Tony Kanaan is a triathlete, bench presses 340 pounds and has 6.5% body fat. As we said, probably one of the fittest guys in this series.
Take a look as we go on board. The number 4 from the National Guard, Dan Weldon, finished 2nd last week at Indy, and he gets around the slower traffic. Vince, you've got more?
Well, the good news for Dan Weldon and his team is the fact that he was really good on the long run. The car was a little bit loose in the beginning of that first stint, but as the run went on, he got better, and his pit crew was very good on that stop. Picked him up 3 positions, so Dan Weldon in the National Guard Dallara moving forward, and certainly this team had a tough week to start things off. They rolled off the truck with some mechanical issues, so not a lot of practice time, but Weldon again good on race day.
And the guy right behind him, Marco Andretti, was dropped all the way back to dead last in the field early, has now worked his way back up to 11th. And he had told us they sacrificed qualifying because last year they were on pole and went straight backwards. And this year they focused on the race, and maybe it's starting to pay a little dividend.
And looking backwards from Dan Weldon's car, the screen on your left on the top side, looking back towards Marco. But Marco said, we know we don't have qualifying pace, we'll try race pace. he can make some changes in the pit box with tire pressures and wings and roll bar adjustments and weight jackers inside to try to tune that car to get as best as it can be, but not on the pace of the leaders today.
That battle has sort of settled down for a little bit because you can see the gap between the 3 cars involved there as Dan Weldon continues in 10th position right now, 12 seconds behind the race lead. Take a look at Paul Tracy. He is running in 18th right now. He is 2 laps down. And let's go back and show you what they did on the pit stop. And we talk about communication being oh so important.
Well, he comes in and they're actually making a wing adjustment on the front there. You can see it. He's just taking turns and turns of wing out. That means the car was starting to be a little bit too loose for him. Jack Root, you have an update?
Yeah, Scott, the car was very, very loose. In fact, he went a lap down. Now, remember, they were bottoming out during all their practice, so they raised the ride height. And then they discovered how loose the car was. So the call from A.J. Foyt, the guy on the right-hand part of your screen, is to go 3 turns down. You saw they were going 6 turns down. Well, why? Because the previous lap they came in, and instead of putting 3 turns in the wing, they took 3 turns out. Now, I'm no math major, and that means that they had to actually crank it 6 consecutive circuits to make the adjustment over 2 pit stops. Very costly.
And very frustrating for him because he's been a lap leader here, 723 lap leads, and it's amazing because he's also won races here, but not competitive today for Paul Tracy.
And you take a look at Helio Castroneves in our biggest mover list as he has moved from 20th now up to 13th position. But he is the second to last car on the lead lap, and he is again finding himself 20 seconds behind the race leaders. In fact, if you look right back there, less than a straightaway is Ryan Briscoe coming on strong. He's got a lot of lap traffic between he and his teammate. On board with E.J. Vizo, who is now back out on the track after a very lengthy pit stop. He is now 12 laps down. Let's get more on Vizo's problem. Jack, what was going on?
Yeah, Marty, it's very similar to what Helio Castroneves was experiencing during his nominal pit stop. The car just wouldn't go back into gear and come out of gear properly. They had a problem with the shifter. It took them that long to solve the problem, at least for now.
Well, that's a tough break for him as he has yet to finish a race this year. That's right, 4 races so far held this year, and he has DNF'd in all 4 of them. There's your top 5 after 82 of 225 laps, and the race leader is bearing down on poor E.J. Vizo.
ESPN's coverage of the INDYCAR Series on ABC, brought to you by GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with a .com name for less than $1 a month. And the Boost Mobile Monthly Unlimited Plan.
Back here at the Milwaukee Mile, you're taking a look at our race leader. That is Ryan Briscoe. He has got a 1.7-second lead over Scott Dixon. Dario Franchitti's 3rd, Graham Rahal 4th, Hideki Muto rounds out your top 5. We have a total now of 14 cars on the lead lap. Ryan Hunter-Reay being the last car on that lead lap. Scott Dixon right there, and that's the lap traffic of Ed Carpenter. And a little bit further back, there is Graham Rahal, as you can see the margins now. About 3 seconds between Franchitti and Rahal for 3rd and 4th.
Although it looks like Briscoe is walking away with this, everybody that's up there in the top 6 or 7 really has a shot at this, because no doubt we'll probably see another yellow to pack this group up, and you never know what happens on restarts.
ABC's Summer Smash Hit Wipeout is back with new obstacles, crazier contestants, and even bigger wipeouts. It's ABC's Wipeout, and it's Wednesday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on ABC. Back here as we look at Ryan Hunter-Reay. Let's get an update on his situation from Brianne Pettigo.
Marty, Ryan Hunter-Reay has a new spotter this year, and he's the spotter is new to vision as well. It's Glenn Packy Wheeler, who used to be Scott Dixon's spotter over at Target Chip Ganassi. Yesterday, Packy was helping Ryan follow the line around the racetrack that the leader, that the fastest guys on the track were following. So he's been helping Ryan a lot, finding better lines around this racetrack, and so far it seems to be paying off. But we got to remember, Ryan Hunter-Reay is not new to Milwaukee. Back in 04, when Champ Car raced here, he actually led every single lap from the green flag to the checker. So he knows how to get it done here. He just needs a little more help.
And his help right now has to come from a yellow because he is oh so close to going a lap down.
That's it. Leo.
That makes it more interesting.
You can hear the spotters. You saw them on your screen a moment ago speaking to their drivers as they go around the race course. And that
Great job, Ryan. Great job.
And that's Packy Wheeler passing a message along to his driver, Ryan Hunter-Reay, in the IZOD machine, saying, great job. He's trying to keep him ahead of Ryan Briscoe. And he's coming all right. Here he goes.
Inside. 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 Clear. Back to Dixon.
And already he's focusing his attention back to Dixon, who is in second place, coming up on Ryan Hunter-Reay. So Ryan goes a lap down. That means we have 13 cars on the lead lap, and we have yet to reach the halfway point. And the race pace has been extremely quick. We've had a total of 1 caution.
But they're running laps in the 155 to 157 area. The fast speeds have been 162, so probably running a little bit of fuel conservation right now, I believe.
See Dixon as he's trying to get around. Let's check in on the teammates from Andretti Green. There's Tony Kanaan and Marco Andretti. They are running 10th and 11th, about 15 seconds off the lead pace.
2 different styles, 2 different driving lines you can notice there. And is it a little bit because TK is injured, just trying to keep the pressure off his ribs, trying to lengthen that turnout and maybe not make the turn as sharp?
Vince, you've got more on this situation?
Well, when Tony Kanaan came in on his last pit stop, they made a tire pressure adjustment and also a front wing adjustment to try to make the front end a little less pinned because the back end was coming out, as you see Marco Andretti challenging his teammate Tony Kanaan. And when that front end isn't working and that back end's going around, or when you feel bad already and then you've got a race car that's not cooperating, it's really tough on you as you see Kanaan hold off Marco Andretti. Brianne?
Marco Andretti says that Milwaukee is a real driver's track that places a premium on race car setup. And it seems so far that the 26 got their setup right. On the last pit stop, Marco wanted 0 adjustments to his race car. This may not be the easiest track to figure out, but if you get it right, it'll reward you.
Thank you, Brianne. As we're going to show you the Firestone telemetry, and we were talking earlier about how we saw Elio saving fuel. Doesn't look like he's saving any fuel.
Well, he's just trying to keep ahead of the guys that are coming up behind him. And as you watch this Firestone telemetry, watch the throttle and watch the gear shifting all the way from 4th to 5th, and watch the G-forces in the car that's up front, and that's exactly what Kanaan's going to be feeling, up over 3 all the time, twice a lap for 225 laps around here. Very difficult. Now, not only that, but this track is bumpy, so every time he goes over a bump, and especially the one at the start-finish line, boy, he can feel that. Watch the gear changing now. He's all the way down to 4th in the turns, up to 5th, and then to 6th. So these guys are driving using 3 top gears, not much of a split between 4th, 5th, and 6th. And that's because, as Vince Welsh mentioned earlier in the show, this racetrack drives like a road course in a sense, because the turns are tight. Very different from where we'll be going in a week's time at Texas, which is a high-banked 1.5 miles.
And Vince, I know you might be a little busy down there. If you can answer this question, has Tony said anything on the radio about his physical condition?
He has not at all mentioned discomfort in regards to his physical condition. He's mentioned some discomfort in regards to how his race car has been handling at times, but Tony Kanaan has not mentioned anything about the fact that he is uncomfortable in the race car. He did tell me before the race if there's one oval track that he would rather not drive under this current physical condition, it would certainly be Milwaukee. It's a track that puts a lot of pressure on that sore part of his upper back every time he makes a turn here.
All right, so as you can see, he soldiers on, got around Paul Tracy. Tracy is 3 laps down. Let's check in on the race lead because it's no longer a situation. Well, again, looks like he's trying to help Elio stay on the lead lap. Castroneves in 13th, but he's got to be careful, Scott, because look who's coming up 2 cars back.
Lost momentum and allows an opportunity for Dixon to have a look on the inside. And at this point in time, you have to think that Castroneves is not going to be able to move up through the field. So you just have to say, sorry, buddy, this weekend's not yours. I got to pass you and move on.
Scott Dixon and Dario Franchitti. And Franchitti has now given Dixon mirror full as he has pulled closer to this now 3-way battle for the front spot. And boy, Briscoe's trying to be a good teammate here. It looks like he's trying to help Elio as much as he can, but Elio well off the pace.
Oh, and you saw just the back end step out a little bit for Briscoe there. So right now the tire wear is starting to come into play and the track's starting to get greased up a little bit. He has to time this perfect so he can slingshot himself past Castroneves without putting himself in harm's way.
Well, this is the 111th open wheel race here at Milwaukee. The average speed would be the 3rd fastest in track history if we keep it up. Back from side by side, and you can see that Scott Dixon has had his hands full with Helio Castroneves. After Helio goes a lap down, he is in 12th. We have 11 cars on the lead lap, and again, Dixon cannot get around Helio, who is trying to get around the 14 of Paul Tracy. And all it's done is allow Briscoe to open up about a 2.5 lead.
And it's helped because we've had all this traffic that these guys have had to be able to get themselves through. And Castroneves has done a good job maneuvering through that. And Dixon on the backside in the number 9 target machine is trying to take advantage of that, but never been able to make it work.
Take a look at Marco Andretti. As Marco, he is in 11th. He's trying to stay on the lead lap as well, because that's Ryan Briscoe, our race leader, in the number 6.
And you can see the back end of Briscoe's car again just weaving, and every time he ends up slicing behind a car in front, he loses the air over the car, and the car starts just to move around. And lots of traffic now. Andretti does a great job of getting through on the outside. Can Briscoe make it through?
We can tell you that Ed Carpenter has pulled into pit lane as he has gone about 55 laps, and he is 3 laps down in 17th position. You don't miss anything over on the right side, as you can see, as Helio Castroneves is caught back up to the race leader, the number 6 of Ryan Briscoe.
Well, we're not far away from having some hopeful green flag pit stops right now, because it's just about 58 laps since they were in last, so we're looking at a fuel window coming up.
Speaking of the pit stops, as you can see, Scott Dixon finally gets around Helio Castroneves. Let's check in on the GoDaddy.com rules of racing, and it has to do with pit stops.
Well, 60-mile-an-hour pit speed limit. You have to adhere to that on the entrance to pit lane all the way through. Get your service work done, and out you go. 6 crew over the wall to change 4 tires and add 22 gallons of ethanol fuel. Not mandated for 22 gallons. You might short fill, but it's up to the team's discretion. And all service work must be performed in the pit box, those white lines that are around your designated pit box. Otherwise, a penalty could be against the team that comes into that infraction.
Take a look again at the race leader, Ryan Briscoe. Let's get our whole crew involved in this. Let's go up to speed. Vince Welch, you're up.
Well, the leader of the race is Ryan Briscoe, and Roger Penske just radioed to him and told him when we come in for our pit stop, we will make no changes. That gives you an indication of how good Ryan Briscoe's car is, and he said, to have a good race here, yes, you can hustle it around as a driver, but first and foremost, you got to have a good car, and Briscoe's got that again today. Remember, he won this race last year. Scott Dixon, very frustrated that he couldn't get around Helio Castroneves, felt as though Castroneves was blocking him a bit, but Dixon now says that he is feels as though he's got some good potential to make that run, but we've got pit stops coming, and that team is very good on pit stops. In the 3rd position is the 10 car of Dario Franchitti. And Franchitti, remember, felt as though they had a better car than what they qualified, and it has raced well here today. Dario did not run here last year, but he has had some good runs here in the past. In fact, a win and 2 seconds in his last 4 runs at Milwaukee. Jackaroo?
Well, for Graham Rahal, it's wait until lap 133. He likes his car. He's been exhibiting patience. They hope to make their final stop, Brianne Pedigo, on lap 133, pack it full of fuel, and then bring her home.
Right behind him in 5th position is Hideki Muto. Early in the race, he was complaining of a loose race car, but on that first pit stop, they made a slight tire pressure adjustment that seems to have done the trick. He's been happy ever since. He was fast all day in practice, and he's been fast all day so far. Jack?
Rafa Matos driving for Jay Penske in the Lutzo Dragon Special, sporting new color scheme, dedicating this race to the U.S. Marines, but Matos complaining of a car that is a bit loose. That's not what you want here at the Milwaukee Mile. Bree?
Danica Patrick currently in 7th position, complaining that her car is loose in traffic. On that first pit stop, they went back and forth, opted not to make a front wing adjustment that could have helped with that. But right now she says she's got a vibration in her car that's getting worse. They told her, hang in there. It's just your tires. We'll fix it when we come in. Jack?
Young Mario Marias, off disappointment at Indianapolis in the Enzel Tequila Special for KV Racing, has been like Rahal, practicing patience, trying to keep his head in the game, trying to log laps. I talked to Mark Johnson, his crew chief, the guy calling the race, and he said, we're just trying to talk him home. Vince?
Dan Weldon coming in the pit box as you see the 4-car rolling in. Weldon has been running pretty well today, and his pit crew did a great job last time. Although it looks like Weldon missed his marks just a little bit. That right rear a long way away, a big reach. Weldon's crew got him 3 spots the first stop, and a good solid run here again in this pit stop as well for the National Guard crew. Now Tony Kanaan is in the 10th position. He's now moved up actually to the 9th spot because of Weldon's pit stop. Kanaan is going to get a front wing adjustment when he comes in on his next stop, which will be coming up shortly. Remember, he says that the car has not been great today. He had that good run right off the bat, but since then they've been battling a loose condition. Brienne?
Marco Andretti, currently shown in the 10th position, feels like he has unfinished business here at this racetrack. So far, his car has been great. He's been quiet on his radio all day. The crew just radioed up to him and said, Marco, come on, we got to get up there. You got to catch up to Tony. Vince?
All right, guys, thanks for the top 10 update. We can tell you there are 3 cars 1 lap down. Elio Castroneves, Thomas Scheckter, and Dan Weldon. And here comes Tony Kanaan as he peels off from the 9th position. Vince?
Tony Kanaan in the box, and Jeff Simon works that right front tire, fuel, and no change. Oh, there's some front wing adjustment for Tony Kanaan, just as they indicated, to try to tighten that race car up. Brienne.
Marco Andretti just leaving his pit box. A clean stop for the Venom 26. Tires and fuel only for Marco.
Okay, so 2 of the 4 AGR cars have made their pit stops, which will leave the opening for Danica Patrick and also Hideki Muto. And we're waiting to see, as we're working 71 laps since the last round of pit stops, when Ryan Briscoe and everybody else will be coming in. Right now we can tell you Hideki Muto has pulled into pit lane from that top 5 group. Brienne?
Hideki Muto just pulled into his pit box. Tires and fuel, they do not expect any adjustments. They're holding him, waiting to give him the signal to go. And he is out. Took him a little bit longer than his teammate.
10 car also of Dario Franchitti is now into pit lane. Vince, he's heading your way.
Yes. The 10 car of Dario Franchitti in the pit box. No changes for the Tom Dallara, and they have had a good run today. And Franchitti believes that he had a race car that could win this race today. But he said, we've got to have some good luck along the way. So far, so good.
I can tell you that's Rafael Matos pulling out of pit lane. On the left side of your screen, you see that everybody else that has yet to stop is setting up. So right now, as we're waiting for everything to cycle through, here's the battle for the race lead. Who's going to blink first? Briscoe in the number 6 or the 9 of Scott Dixon? It looks like it's going to be Briscoe. He's pulling down. Dixon's staying out.
No, and Briscoe's in a situation he doesn't want to come in behind a slower car, but that's the situation he faces right now.
60 miles an hour. Also, we can tell you Graham Rahal is in pit lane as well. Jack?
For Graham Rahal, this they hope will be the final stop, so watch the fueler. He needs to pack the fuel all the way in. They've been trying to control the flow. Let's go to Vince.
The 6 car of Ryan Briscoe, no changes as Roger Penske encouraged him to be smooth in and out, and he was indeed.
And Brienne?
Danica Patrick in her pit box right now. We were waiting to see if they were going to make an adjustment to help her out with that understeer, and it does not seem like it has happened. But unfortunately, Tony Kanaan is smoking, just pulled through Danica's pit into his own box.
Tony Kanaan problems are getting him out of the race car as the smoke is billowing from the back end of the car. So Kanaan is getting out, but I can tell you this is the real problem with Kanaan because of his physical situation, is getting out of the car. And you can see he's got to be helped from the machine from his crew members. He's done for the day.
So the man who won here 2 years in a row has now, the last 2 years, not finished this race. And a tough break for Tony Kanaan, as smoke still billowing from the engine compartment. As you see, Dario Franchitti is now your race leader, as we're waiting for all the pit stops to cycle through and sort everybody back out. Do you realize last week in Indianapolis we had absolutely 0 green flag pit stops? That's just the way the cautions fell last week, but not so this week, and pit crews have played an essential role again.
Well, Franchitti's done a great job in his crew right now, and Briscoe's in pursuit, and right behind him is Dixon. So it's all spread out now, clear track ahead. So where are they on fuel monitoring right now? Is 100% fuel and looking forward, or are they going to try and conserve just a little bit? We'll watch the speeds and let you know how they're going, but that last speed for Dario Franchitti was up almost just over 160 miles an hour.
Boy, look at Tony Kanaan. The Iron Man of this series, as far as physical fitness, is spent. Vince?
TK, ultimately, what happened there?
I don't know. For sure he's on fire, so I don't know what happened.
How was the condition of the race car prior to the pit lane incident here?
It was a bit loose, but it was coming back at us. But it is what it is. We can't afford to lose races like this, and it's going to cost us in the championship for sure.
Physically, how did you hold up during that shortened race?
I was okay. I mean, apparently the car is not, but I was fine.
Marty?
Well, TK's right. Right now, it would drop him 2 more spots in the championship chase. He would fall 50 markers behind. That's if everything stays as is. No matter who ends up winning, he takes a big hit in the points chase. There is Helio Castroneves, still 1 lap down in 11th, and we've talked about how his one dream now is to win a championship, the one thing he has yet to put on his resume. It's been a tough day for him. He is 1 lap behind the race leader, who is Dario Franchitti, followed by Ryan Briscoe, Scott Dixon, Graham Rahal, and Rafael Matos. We'll be back with more from the Milwaukee Mile after this message from our ABC stations. Swing away with ESPN for 2 nights of Major League Baseball action. First at 8 Eastern, Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. It's the Dodgers and the Cubs. And then Monday Night Baseball at 7 Eastern as Alex Rodriguez and the Yankees roll into Cleveland. ESPN News will be shown in New York Market tomorrow night. Back here at the Milwaukee Mile, we have 147 of 225 laps completed. Let's take a look at our Firestone lap leaders, as Dario Franchitti now has led a total of 13 laps. And we've had 4 different leaders with 4 lead changes. And Ryan Briscoe picked up the 1 bonus point for being on pole, and he is locked in to get the bonus point for leading the most laps, Scott.
And you have to say, great job for Franchitti and his team as we're looking out here from Marco Andretti's car. Great vision point here. But for Franchitti, a great in-lap, great pit work, and a great out-lap to take the lead in that last round of pit stops. Now look at the suspension that we're viewing here right now. The upper and lower control arm, the front wing that you see just above that. See how much vibration is going through that on Marco Andretti's car. Firestone tire there on your right-hand side. Remember, we're seeing over 3 Gs on these cars as we're going through the turns. A lot of stress on all these parts and on the tires. It's amazing that these cars can just continue this lap after lap.
See, Marco is pulling closer to Mario Marias. They had, of course, that big first lap incident last week. That is a battle for 8th place on the racetrack. We can tell you that Dan Weldon has just gone down a lap. He's in 10th, so now we only have 9 cars on the lead lap. There is your race leader coming up quickly on the 26 of Marco Andretti.
Now Marco certainly knows that, because he can look in his mirrors and see that bright color of Dario Franchitti's car. Also, his team will be telling him over the radio the leader is coming up from behind. He does not want to go a lap down.
Right behind Franchitti, that is Ryan Briscoe in 2nd place, Scott Dixon in 3rd. You're back on board with Marco.
You mentioned Marco Andretti and Mario Marias, and we've talked to both of them here about their incident last week at Indy. And Mario Marias said, I sent Marco a text, did not get a reply. So I think that really tells you where they sit on this issue, Marty.
And Marco said he did not receive the text. So, yeah, I think you've got the general gist. Take a look, as here you go. Briscoe trying to go underneath with lap traffic. Robert Dornbos in front, and he takes the lead again away from Dario Franchitti. And here comes the 9 car of Scott Dixon. Whoa, and Briscoe cut across the bow.
Nice defensive move, takes the inside line. Now he's got to keep his momentum up and really dispatch those lap cars that are in front of him, because right now he's got 2 teammates with the target cars behind him that would like to put that Penske car behind both of them.
And all of a sudden, Dario Franchitti goes from being the race leader to being relegated back to 3rd.
All comes down to traffic. Got up behind that traffic, couldn't get past traffic. Maybe the car's not working as well in traffic as the other guys, and it cost him.
A little bit further back, it's Graham Rahal in 4th, Rafael Matos in 5th, Danica Patrick in 6th position. She is now 17 seconds off of the lead pace. Let's see what's going on her onboard.
Now let's watch her hands here and see how she controls the car. It usually is an indication of how well it's working for you.
Well, you can see a lot of input from that steering. And we talked to her about what it takes to have a good car on a short oval.
Man, there's nothing more fun and rewarding and exciting than having a good car at a short oval. I mean, and to be flat around a short oval feels so good. And it's actually kind of easy. I mean, if you can get to the point where your foot never comes off of that throttle the whole way around, and it normally only happens in like qualifying or something, or, you know, new tires, but you know you're dialed in, and, you know, man, it makes the racing so much more fun.
Her lap times right now are holding very consistently as she has just turned a very quick lap. She's actually quicker than the race leader. In fact, quicker than anybody else on the track the last lap. And she goes around Ryan Hunter-Reay, who is several laps down in 12th. So there you see the top 5 after 158 laps. Stay with us here at Milwaukee. Under our second caution here at the Milwaukee Mile, as we have debris on the racetrack. And now, Scott, this changes the complexion of the race with 64 laps to go. The window is open for this to be the last stop.
Absolutely. They'll come in 4 Firestone tires, fuel, and that will make sure that get all the way to the end. And any changes you want to make either with wing or with tire pressure will have to be done now. So hopefully the drivers have communicated everything to their pits and let them know how the car is working, because this is your final stop, their final chance to make changes on the car.
Ryan Briscoe is the race leader, followed by Scott Dixon, Dario Franchitti, Graham Rahal, Rafael Matos. That's your top 5. There are only 9 cars on the lead lap. Danica Patrick, Hideki Muto, Mario Marias, and Marco Andretti as they make their way down to pit lane. This is what we always call the money stop, and they're heading towards you, Vince.
Well, and you had to know it was coming during this race. You always seem to get this stop where you got to make a flawless stop at the finish. You see Franchitti's car, the green one. He is the first in line because Castroneves decided to stay out. Briscoe is out first, and then it's going to be Dixon beating Dario Franchitti to the line.
See the rest of the field that has decided to stop here, and Briscoe, the race off pit road, as everybody pretty much holds station. Andretti picked up 2 spots. Hideki Muto dropped 1. Let's go back and take a look at some of these other pit stops. We saw what was happening near the back. All right, that's Ryan Briscoe, Danica in the middle, and at the top of your screen, Graham Rahal.
Making sure that you watch your crew member on your right front. He will signal you to go. Graham Rahal gets the message and off he goes. Now watch with Danica. A quick wing change you saw from the right front mechanic. Only looked like about a half a turn, and she is off.
And as we pointed out, everybody pretty much came out in the position that they went in. Elio stayed out, as we can tell you, and that will put him back on the lead lap. He'll get the wave by here relatively soon. That'll put him on the tail end of the lead lap, as there's his teammate and race winner from this event last year.
But tail end of the lead lap, but still needing a splash of fuel to make it to the end, because remember, he has not come in yet.
And we've only had 2 cautions. This has been a very quick race. The fewest cautions since the IndyCar Series has been coming here. 4, the most 6. So it's not been a slugfest like some events that we've had over the period of time.
And the Indy Racing League is taking the opportunity right now in this yellow, when they had to clean up the debris, to put out the trucks to take off the marbles that are out there. You can see just those small pieces of rubber on the foreground there in the light gray area. That's the little pieces of rubber that come off the tire through wear. And in the end result, you end up with that marble situation, which is on the high side. And there's the sweeper right there. And they'll leave him out there for maybe another couple of laps to clean off, to make the racing line wider. Instead of a 1-groove track, we'll then move off to being a 2-groove track. And you can remember what happens when a car gets up into those marbles. It takes it up into the fence.
Well, while we've got a moment, let's tell you about Thursday, because Jimmy's jumping into prime time with the all-new NBA Finals special. Superstars Will Ferrell, Denzel Washington, Jack Black, Dwayne Wade, Eminem, many more. Jimmy Kimmel Live, game night, starting Thursday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central after Game 1 of the NBA Finals on ABC. Well, as you can see, they continue to sweep the racetrack, trying to get as many of those marbles up before we go back to green. We're now down to 60 laps to go. We've had 4 different leaders if you're just joining us here. We've had a total of 5 lead changes, 2 cautions for a total of 16 laps and counting. As we mentioned, a total of 10 cars now on the lead lap, with Elio Castroneves eventually on the tail end of that lead lap. And then we have 2 cars that are out of the race. Mike Conway in 20th and Tony Kanaan in 19th when he had that problem in the pit area where the engine compartment caught on fire, but they extinguished it. TK is out and he is okay. Waiting for the wave by. There you see Elio. He is right behind the pace car, and then there is your race leader, Ryan Briscoe. And since he stayed out, he will get the wave by here momentarily, and that'll give him a chance to circle around, get back at the back of the pack.
And the reason he's so close to the pace car is that he's letting the pace car break the air in front of him, and they feel sometimes that might just help you gain just a little bit of fuel advantage, better fuel mileage. I'm not convinced that it does, but that's what they think. Now let's go back to the race situation we had a while ago where you saw the 2 teammates with Helio Castroneves in the lead, and then here we go right now with Briscoe on the inside.
Outside, still outside, 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 still outside. You're clear, clear. Good job.
We'll remember that one. No, we'll remember. I got you. Good work there, buddy.
Now that last radio part of the transmission is Tim Cindric giving a message along to Helio Castroneves saying, you know something, we'll remember that one. They're teammates, Marty, but you run separately within the team itself. And that was what we talked about before, speculated that Ryan for the longest time was trying to help Helio and keep Helio on that lead lap. And then finally got to a point where Ryan just went, you know what, I can't do that any longer.
And to let you know where Helio stands on fuel, he pitted 34 laps ago. Ryan Briscoe, the race leader, pitted 6 laps ago. And remember, we're eating up a lot less fuel here under these caution laps.
Well, still 57 laps to go, so it looks like for Castroneves, he might have to have a splash and go at the very end, depending if we do have another yellow from this point forward. That would give him, obviously, caution laps to run under a yellow situation and save fuel. But right now, a betting man says that he might have to come in one more time.
And while we've got a moment, let's talk a little bit about the points situation, because obviously Helio Castroneves focused on that in our pre-race. And as we finally get the wave around, there goes Helio. If the race stays the way it is, Ryan Briscoe would take the points lead away from Dario Franchitti by 10 markers. Scott Dixon would be 16 back in 3rd. Helio would drop to 4th, 30 points back. And in fact, he'd be tied with Danica Patrick for that spot. So it gives you an idea how much is at stake here with 56 laps to go. So it is going to be a sprint to the finish because everybody has fresh tires, has enough fuel, except for Helio Castroneves.
And for Briscoe just a year ago, this is where the dream all started to happen for him as we get the 1 lap to go signal from the starter stand. He won this event and everything was going forward from that point. Remember, up until this event last year, crashes, and everybody wondered if he'd make it through the year with Team Penske. But the fairy tale started right here.
Since then, he's recorded 2 more wins, including 1 win earlier this season. And he's looking to add another one here at the Milwaukee Mile as they head down the back straightaway. And they're saying now no start. So all of a sudden, race officials did not like what they saw, and we'll go 1 more.
Well, a little gamemanship there, Marty, because Briscoe came out of turn 2, gassed it down the backstretch, and then started to slow down. It started to accordion everybody that was behind him, watched in his mirrors and waited for Dixon to get a little bit close and gassed it again. And Brian Barnhart, the president of the league up here for competition division, has a great vantage point, saw that, and threw out the yellow.
So we'll try it again. Again, they're down the backstretch. There is a good close-up view of Scott Dixon as they come through 3 and 4. And the green flag is out. You heard the call, and we're racing again at the Milwaukee Mile. Down the back straightaway. Briscoe has about 4 car lengths, maybe 5 on Scott Dixon. Dario Franchitti another 4 to 5 lengths behind. And the top 3 are trying to check out on 4th place, Graham Rahal. Rahal's got his hands full with some lap traffic. Danica Patrick lost a position. Marco Andretti has worked his way up to 6th on board with Danica. She goes around the lap traffic of Paul Tracy.
Very aggressive there. She gets the car on the inside and keeps her foot on the gas. Very hard to do on a restart because the car really moves around until tire temperatures come up and tire pressures come up. This is a difficult part for the drivers.
That's Marco Andretti right in front of her there. She's going to take the inside line. Oh, 3 wide won't work here. Discretion the better part of valor, and she backs off. And that allows Marco to move around and open up a little more space over Danica.
Well, Rafael Matos is right there in that mix also, and he's trying to keep his position. He sees what's up in front, and he sees right now Danica's starting to have a look down the front stretch and sticks her nose on the inside, and she'll get it because she gets an opportunity to box out Matos because of the traffic ahead.
That is Robert Dornbos in the 06 right in front of Danica. He is lap traffic. He's 15th, 4 laps down. She's going to try and go under? No, can't get it done.
Her car's working better though. She's back on the gas sooner than he is. She should carry that speed down the front stretch and hopefully in through turn 1.
She sticks her nose in. Here we go. She takes the position away, or actually gets around Dornbos, and now sets sail for another lap traffic car. That's Thomas Schechter in front. Let's go back and check in with the race leaders because nothing's changed up front. Ryan Briscoe by half a second over Scott Dixon. Dario Franchitti is 1.7 seconds back, and then it's 8 seconds back to Graham Rahal as he has had his hands full with lap traffic, as you saw by what was going on behind these guys up front. 48 laps to go here at the Milwaukee Mile. Stay with us.
ESPN's coverage of the INDYCAR Series on ABC, brought to you by Iowa's corn growers, proudly feeding and fueling the world. And GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with a .com name for less than $1 a month.
That is Danica Patrick's pit crew, and they're cheering their driver on. She's up to 6, and all of a sudden, Helio Castroneves is a lap down again. So even though he's trying to conserve fuel, it's just not working for him today. There goes Scott Dixon underneath him, as it's Ryan Briscoe, Scott Dixon, Dario Franchitti, and then it's another 10 seconds back to Graham Rahal in 4th. So it's going to be decided between these 3.
And for Castroneves, he'll move from 2nd to 4th in the points championship if he just remains where he is today. So not collecting points in the fashion that he had dreamed about at the beginning of the start of the race.
One guy we're keeping our eye on is Marco Andretti. He has moved into the top 5 as he has gotten around several cars, and there is Danica Patrick right behind him. And remember, Brienne, he was at one point early in this race dead last.
Yeah, Marco Andretti and his team really took a gamble this week in not practicing qualifying setup. They only practiced race setup. They said it doesn't really matter where you qualify here if your car's not strong enough to keep you there. And so far, that risk has really paid off for them. They keep reminding Marco, keep using your tools. So far, it seems to be working as he's stretching out his lead on teammate Danica Patrick.
And he is about 1.5 seconds behind Graham Rahal for 4th. And there is Michael, who calls the shots for Danica's car. And there is Danica, and that's the view she has of Marco right in front.
He's got to keep clicking off the laps here, but because those leaders are right now about 12 seconds in front of him, he hopes that there's another yellow so he can then get in touch with the group that's up front.
There's the view from outside, and as we said, now the gap is now down to 10 seconds between this group and the race leader. So they are actually running some very solid laps. Oh, and E.J. Vizo, we told you how many problems he has had this year. He has yet to finish a race, and it looks like he has white-walled the right side. That's the word we're getting from our spotters, and the caution is not out, so we are still under green flag conditions as he is on the warm-up lane through turns 1 and 2.
Smart move by him to get off the traffic lane in the turns. Their team had an interesting program going on this year. Since the beginning of the season, it's combined 107 pounds lost by the group on a fitness program by Herbalife.
There's your race leader on the right side, the number 6. That is Ryan Briscoe coming up on Paul Tracy. It's not been the kind of day Paul has wanted with his debut with A.J. Foyt Racing. Tracy is 17th, 5 laps down. Now, who gets through this traffic? Ooh, better could determine who wins this race. Remember what happened late last year with that 3-car crash involving Andretti, Vitor Meira, and Ed Carpenter. They do not want a replay of that. So far, Briscoe has cleared Tracy. Here comes Dixon in the number 9.
And what Tracy's trying to do is give them enough room on the inside that they can get through, but not put himself up into that gray area where the marbles are. That would then put him off into the wall.
Let's get an update on Ryan Briscoe from Vince Welch.
And Roger Penske has been talking with Briscoe, coaching him around the track, reminding him of the lap traffic in front of him, and encouraging him to be patient. And it goes back to something that Briscoe told me earlier today when he said, in a year's time, what I think I've learned most is what not to do. And maybe you saw an example of that there when he didn't force the issue with Paul Tracy. He backed out, regathered himself, and then made the pass of the lapped car. Jack Arute?
Well, for Scott Dixon, who was trying to chase down your leader, Mike Hull calls the shots on his team. And I just asked Mike, guys, how the car operated in traffic. He said it is very good in traffic, and as these two cars come up on some heavy traffic, Mike Hull told me this is where they will have to make their move if they hope to pass that other red and white car, number 6, with Briscoe aboard.
And as we pointed out, it is a second blanketing first, second, and third. There they were, all three of them in your screen. We can tell you E.J. Viso is out of this race, so he's 0 for 5 this year. Tough break for that team as they're still looking to finish their first race, let alone get into the top 5 or even contend. All right, who's going to win this? We have got 196 down, 29 to go. It's Ryan Briscoe up front, but there's a couple guys breathing down his neck. Great thing about side-by-side, you didn't miss the pass. A change for the race lead. Dixon got around Ryan Briscoe as he got around. And I'm sorry, I've just been told we were not in side-by-side at that point. We were in a local break, so let's take you back and show you what happened.
Briscoe, the number 6 machine, got slowed up by the 23 of Thomas Schechter, and the number 9 in the target machine, Scott Dixon, takes advantage of that, Marty, and a nice pass for the lead. And we heard earlier from Vince Welch that it was going to be in traffic if they could make the move, and Vince, that's exactly how it played out.
Well, and Roger Penske had been complaining to the IndyCar Series official down here on pit road for some time, trying to get race control to get Thomas Schechter, the lap car, to let Ryan Briscoe go by, believing that Schechter was holding Briscoe up. And that was exactly what happened as Briscoe got caught up behind the slower car of Thomas Schechter. Dixon used that to his advantage and made the move.
21 laps to go. As you see Roger Penske, he's got to try and come up with some strategy. And all it is right now, fellas, is hammer down, and can you catch him?
Well, and that's the thing. Scott Dixon's turning laps. That last one, 160.5 miles an hour. Briscoe is 2 miles an hour short on that. So was Dixon holding something back until he could take the lead? It maybe looks like that's the situation. The only hope for Briscoe now is to catch up in traffic and maybe repay the favor, Jack Arute.
Well, Scotty, I think you came up with a great analogy there, or a great analysis, in the respect that after the pass, about 4 laps before the pass, Mike Hull finally let Scott Dixon loose. And what I mean by that, he finally radioed to them that they were plenty fine on fuel. Now, they were fine on fuel long before that, but they didn't bother to tell their driver. Why? Because I think they wanted him to exhibit that patience to be able to use it in traffic. Now, he is flat out and wide open.
Scott has now led on all 3 ovals in 2009. We also should update Marco Andretti's situation. He was running in the top 5, but all of a sudden dropped 2 positions to Danica Patrick and Rafael Matos. He's now back in 7th.
And he's turning laps about 150 or 151 miles an hour. And off the gas, you can hear there many, many times. Even his teammate had a look on the inside, and she got back on the gas as Marco was having problems and took advantage of that and was able to make that move very easily.
And then watch Matos right behind on the right side of your screen.
He'll start to sneak up because Marco has lost momentum in the center of the turn, and Rafael gets out of the turn quicker and dives going into the turn. Now, for me, it looks like the car has gone off for Marco Andretti because he's not comfortable carrying the speed into the turn. Brian Pedigo?
Well, Scott, I just spoke to Kyle Moyer, who's Marco's strategist, and he says that Marco's battling a lot of understeer right now. So they keep urging him to use the tools that he's got inside the car and see if he can correct it at all, because obviously they're not coming in again.
All right, thanks for the update, Brienne, and we'll keep our eyes on that. We'll also tell you there are only 8 cars on the lead lap, and Elio Castroneves is in pit lane. Vince?
Well, he had communicated with Tim Cindric that the car was not handling to their liking, and they talked about a wing adjustment. They did get that front wing adjustment made, and just enough fuel to get to the end for Elio.
He is now 2 laps down in 11th position, and may lose a spot to Ryan Hunter-Reay, who is also 2 laps down, depending on where they shake out through this stop. Meanwhile, let's check back in with the race leader. There is Scott Dixon, 2.8 seconds in front of Ryan Briscoe. And Ryan Briscoe's led the most laps. Scott Dixon's led the fewest of the Firestone lap leaders that you see there. But I'll tell you something, right now he's in command of this one.
And Briscoe's not going to lead the lap that he wants, which is the last one, as he's trying to fend off a battle right now from the number 10 TomTom machine of Dario Franchitti.
Franchitti took a look on the inside, can't get it done. That is Mario Marias, who is a lap down in 9th, right in front of these two.
And Marty Dixon right now is starting to turn laps 4 miles an hour faster than Briscoe, who is in 2nd place. So no doubt, as Jack Arute mentioned, he's now got full fuel and he can put the pedal to the metal and he's able to drive away.
Well, what do they say about sleeping dogs? I mean, he just was laying back, and then all of a sudden, when the opportunity presented itself, he just pulled around and has since pulled away. And Scott Dixon looking to pick up his 2nd win today. We've had 4 different winners in the first 4 races this year, all by Team Penske, all by Target Ganassi Racing. And it looks like it's going to stay that way here in the 5th stop of the 2009 campaign. In fact, there you see it right there.
And if he does win this race, he'll go from 4th to 1st in the points championship battle, which now that we've been finished with Indianapolis for a week, everybody's thinking about the IndyCar Points Championship.
Yeah, this would shake him up again, but boy, it's still going to be close. Take a look as he goes around the 21 of Ryan Hunter-Reay. That puts Ryan 3 laps down. Not been the kind of day that he wanted. Take a look at the points as of right now. As you can see, Dixon would supplant Dario Franchitti. They would be tied, Franchitti and Briscoe. Danica would move up to 4th, 22 behind. Elio would drop to 5th, 25 markers off the pace. But we still have 9 laps to go, and there is the 9 car going underneath Hideki Muto. Muto is in 8th spot. That means we have 7 cars on the lead lap.
And with this traffic situation, this is where you're trying to find a balance between being aggressive and just sitting back and making sure you can pick your places to pass. Anytime you put yourself amongst a bunch of cars, you hope that their spotters for those cars in front have let them know that the leader's coming from behind.
Dixon's lead now, Jack Arute, is 1.4 seconds.
Yeah, and Scott Goodyear, I find it interesting watching the telemetry on Scott Dixon, your leader. Normally, you know, on an oval like this, you'd use 5th and 6th, right? Well, all of a sudden, when he comes up on race traffic, it's only momentarily, but he is not afraid to use 4th gear to give himself a little extra room and an extra oomph, as they say.
And Jack, we've seen that so many times today with a lot of the drivers because the speed in the turns slows down with the traffic, as you're mentioning. So you need to get your momentum back up coming onto the stretch, and you end up using 4th gear if you have to.
Battle for 2nd place is the best one we've got going right now because Scott Dixon's trying to run away and hide. Ryan Briscoe in the 6 in front of the 10 of Dario Franchitti as they go down the backstretch. 5.5 laps to go. Turn 4. Briscoe seems to be able to hold off Franchitti. Further back and forth, it is Graham Rahal. He's about 0.6 of a second behind this group. In fact, there you can see how the difference is as he comes around turn 2, down the back straightaway. But nobody is going to catch Scott Dixon. He's opened up a 3-second lead.
But he's in the race car right now, Marty, so he knows what's going on. He's very comfortable. Right now, it's his family and the crew that are in the pit lane just sort of thinking, okay, come around one more time. They only see him come past the front stretch. As a driver, it's always easy because you're in control. You know where you are on the race course. Tougher for the crew.
This time by, it'll be 3 laps remaining for Scott Dixon, the 2008 IndyCar Series champion. There's Glennis on the right, Scott's mother. Running into lap traffic, that's Elio Castroneves in front of him as he goes down the back straightaway. 2 laps remaining, and the lead has been cut to 2.4 seconds because of the lap traffic.
He's got to be cautious. He's going to pick and choose when he's going past. Elio, even though his teammate is running second, trying to chase Dixon down, does the very gentlemanly thing and moves over and lets the race leader go by.
So Dixon has some clear room, at least for a few moments, as this time by, he'll get the white flag as he comes out of turn number 4. It's more lap traffic in front of him, but there it is. 1 lap remaining here at the Milwaukee Mile in the 2009 edition of this storied race. The battle for second continues, as it is Franchitti trying to get underneath the 6 of Briscoe. Down the back straightaway for the last time, through turns 3 and 4, coming out of turn 4, Scott Dixon, his 18th career win, one behind Sam Hornish on the all-time IndyCar Series win list.
Good job, man. Good job.
Second, third, and fourth, cover him with a blanket. It was Briscoe, Franchitti, and Rahal. Danica Patrick for the 4th race in 5, finishes in the top 5 in 5th. So a great run, especially the last 25 laps for Scott Dixon, and finally a smile from Mike Hull.
Oh, you know, the strategy is always perfect at Target Chip Ganassi. Mike Hull did a wonderful job. They always seem to come through at the end. Very smart group of people running that race car program.
So Scott picks up his 2nd win, the first 2-time winner this year, as he also won at Kansas. And our next stop for Scott will be our IZOD Victory Lane. We'll do that when we come back. And we're here at the Milwaukee Mile, and there you see, as Scott Dixon has made it to the IZOD Victory Lane. Vince?
Scott Dixon winning for the 2nd time here this season. Victory at Kansas and then taking the victory here at the Milwaukee Mile. And Scott, you told me earlier in the weekend, when you win here, you know you've earned it because this is a hard racetrack. How difficult was it for you today?
It was tough. You know, first of all, I got to say hello to my wife who's over in England. Emma's back home with her family, so I just want to give her a shout out over there. But man, what a long race. You know, we had a lot of traffic. Traffic was key to today, but we've come a long way, man. I remember crashing 2 cars, I think, in 4 laps at this place in 2005. So I'm stoked that the Target car was so fast today. We had a great race with Dario as well in the Tom Tom car. It was just awesome. I'm just so happy to win at this place. It's so tough.
How about the pass of Ryan Briscoe? Take us through that. He was having some trouble getting by Scheckter. How did you size that up?
Yeah, you know, that's just that's the problem the whole day is you just got to try and get a clean way through the traffic. And you know, Briscoe and I and everybody else, you get caught up sometimes. And I actually had a run on him several times, and he kind of run me to the bottom there, but we didn't get caught up, luckily. But that's how I got him. You know, he tried to go below, then I got to run high, and then got underneath him going into 3.
You had a really good car at Indianapolis. Of course, you won the race before that at Kansas, and now you win this one. What's the big difference with this race team and how Eric Bretzman is setting up this race car to make it almost unbeatable?
It's not, you know, it's Eric, it's Brian, it's Mike, you know, it's Chip from the top, you know, and working with Dario has been fantastic. He's been a great teammate. You know, we're just trying to work on finer points to make these cars better, and you could see in the first 10 laps how good these cars were today. So, you know, I think Dario would have liked to have finished a little higher, but I'm just so stoked that we won here at the Milwaukee Mile, man.
He wins at Milwaukee, and he's the points leader to boot. Marty?
All right, thank you very much, Vince. And this is the 2nd fastest race in 111 held here at the Milwaukee Mile. 138.7 miles an hour, the fewest cautions we've had. And there's the pass down the back straightaway. That's the one that did it for Scott Dixon as he picks up his 2nd win of the year. We've got more from the Milwaukee Mile when we come back.
ESPN's coverage of the IndyCar Series on ABC, brought to you by Apex Brazil. Experience our energy. IZOD Indy, the official apparel sponsor of the IndyCar Series. And Firestone, the first name in Indy racing.
Right there is A.J. Foyt, a 4-time winner here at the Milwaukee Mile. In fact, Victory Lane is named for A.J., and there is the plaque dedicated back in June of 2003. This man is synonymous with this track over the years. A total of 7 cars finished on the lead lap out of the 20 that are here. And let's check in with the man who finished 2nd, Ryan Briscoe. He's with Jackaroo.
Yeah, he's been waiting patiently. And Ryan, let's talk a little bit about, first of all, the pass. But that was the end result of some tough times you were having in traffic.
A little bit, you know. Scott was there all day, and, you know, I just got held up a little bit there. I think it was with Scheckter, and tried to go down the inside and then really had to slow it down with understeer. Scott got a run on me, and that was it. But it was a great race anyway, you know.
When you lose momentum and lose the lead that way, how long does it take to gather it all back in and get back in the game?
Oh, I mean, you're straight on it, but you know, I could see Scott's car was just a little bit faster as the tyres got older. He would carry a bit more momentum through the middle of the corners, and that's what was hurting me a little bit more with the traffic. But you know, that's how I got Dario earlier on when he was leading. But it's a great result. I think the points are very close, and you know, it was fun and exciting. I love this track.
I want to go back to when your teammate, Elio Castroneves, who had to start dead last, you started on the pole, was in front of you. And I wonder, how much leeway were you giving Elio in hopes that you wouldn't have to put him a lap down?
Well, that's right. You know, I was pretty patient, and I didn't want to force the issue. But you know, as the race went on, I think we got in that situation again, and I was starting to get a bit anxious because Scott and Dario were right behind me. But you know, he was just struggling a little bit more with the handling today, and obviously it's hard at this track starting last. But I had to be careful too, because I mean, he's a 3-time Indy 500 champion. You know, he's a legend. I didn't want to do anything silly with it.
All right, congratulations, second place. Not where you'd like to be, but second is still good. Brianne?
Jack, I've caught up with Dario Franchitti here in Victory Lane. You came to congratulate your teammate Scott Dixon. A strong third finish for you. How pleased are you with third?
Yeah, it's one of those deals. I'm really happy. The TomTom car ran very well today, and we came from 8th, got up into the lead there. Got held up in a little bit of traffic, and Scott and Ryan got past, but that seemed the story of the day. And I didn't do a good enough job timing a couple of those passes, and the guys got back past me, and had a couple of goes there at Ryan at the end, but just not close enough.
Do you think you had anything for Ryan if we could have kept going a little longer?
Well, I think that was the thing of the day. If you got momentum and managed to pass people, yeah, you could do it, but you know, as I say, I just didn't quite do the right job, and I got to congratulate Scott and the Target boys. Great job today, and a lot of fun back here in Milwaukee racing in the IndyCar. A lot of fun.
You had some frustrating pit stops at Indy. How were the pits for you today?
Yeah, Scott and I both we kind of gave away the 500 in the pits, but those guys today, both the 9 and the 10 car, were very, very good. So really happy. And normally the Target guys are well known for the pit stops. Last week was just a little bump there, but they're back on form now.
Well, if he's not the points leader, I'm sure he's happy that it's his teammate who is. Dario Franchitti in third today.
Yeah, the points right now, it is Scott Dixon in front by 4 over Dario Franchitti and Ryan Briscoe. That's right, they're tied for second. When we come back, we'll talk to that man right there, find out what he thought of today. The post-race festivities continue here at the Milwaukee Mile as we will show you what the points look like right now. After 5 races of 17, Scott Dixon takes over the top spot, by moving up 3. Tie for second with Dario Franchitti and Ryan Briscoe. Danica Patrick has now moved to an all-time high 4th. She has moved up 2 spots. Elio Castroneves drops 3 to 5th. In fact, that's where we find him with Vince Welch.
Long day for Elio Castroneves today, and I guess maybe it started at the beginning of the weekend or yesterday in qualifying when you crashed. Had to start from the back today. You didn't seem to progress through the field maybe as quickly as some expected. Was that patience, or were you having some issues with the handling of the race car?
No, if we didn't go up, that means we didn't have much, unfortunately. In fact, this is one of the days when you ask how many laps to go, it's like 743 laps. You're like, what? It's one of those jokes that it never ends, and unfortunately, it was a long day for us. So we're just trying to stay out of trouble and finish in the points.
And then the pit stop. You come in, the car would not engage in gear. You had a similar issue at Indianapolis. Was this the same problem?
Yeah, this is. It seems to be one point similar, and then unfortunately another one. The engine's like shutting off, and when you shut off the engine, basically that's it. You go all the way to the back, which is very disappointing. But we gotta sort it out. We gotta think what is different from last year that's causing these problems. We didn't have in Kansas, we didn't have in Long Beach. So why in India now we start having? It's the same engine. We wonder if there is something to do with the mapping with this engine. But I'm not complaining. It's just the way it is.
Well, a lot of guys would be complaining after a day like today, but Elio Castroneves always seems to manage a smile. Jackaroo?
Well, Vince, Brian Barnhart having a quick conversation with Graham Rahal after he completed the entire 225 laps. And Graham, you started on the outside pole on the drop of the green flag. You did the stab and thrust and took the lead, and then settled in for most of the race with a little bit of understeer.
Yeah, I mean, we had a touch of understeer, but I think the biggest thing was that the McDonald's boys, we needed to be patient. I mean, of course, you need to make it to the end. And so I got an awesome start, but, you know, coming around turn 2, I was being a little cautious, and TK got a run, so I just let him by. And then, you know, I think it was Dixon that got by me again. And at the start, really the biggest thing was just making it through. You know, I mean, 225 laps here is a long time, and so just trying to be patient. And and it certainly came back to us there in the end. It was just unfortunate we didn't, I mean, with 60 laps to go on that restart, there were 5 lap cars between the leaders and myself, and it was just a little, too late, unfortunately, and just we caught them at the end, but we needed 10 more laps.
The last time we visited with you, you were bemoaning the fact that you made the same mistake 2 years in a row in the Indy 500. Rate your performance today. I know TZ and you talked an awful lot about exhibiting patience and waiting for things to come to you.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing was I certainly wasn't going to make the same mistake 2 years in a row here, and I could see that the marbles were getting pretty bad up high, and to be honest, my car was working well on the bottom. I passed I don't know how many guys off turn 4, but it was good, and the McDonald's boys had good stops today. I mean, obviously we're going to continue to improve. But really the biggest thing, our main goal was to finish. We knew we had a car that was capable of winning. Just got to get to the end.
What did Barnhart just say to you?
No, I just asked him. It's always interesting to me that a guy can be 15 laps down and not get black flagged when he's in front of you. And the problem is on a short oval like this, you rely so much on the tires that if you follow a guy for 10 or 15 laps, you've used up the tires. And so you don't want that to happen. And unfortunately, it did for me at a couple times today, but still, our performance was good. We're going to move on to Texas. We know we've got the speed on the 1.5 mile ovals, and then off to a couple more short ovals.
All right, we'll see you there. Brian Barnhart, of course, the president of competition for the Indy Racing Leagues. Check in with Brianne Pettigo.
Jack, let's make it 4 top 5s in a row for Danica Patrick. Danica, to what do you attribute the role you seem to be on?
The first thing that comes to mind is hard work. Working really hard, just thinking, doing more than I've ever done really to prepare for the race, and also having fun. I can't tell you how much fun that we as a group have every single day, and the funny stuff we hang on the walls or draw or talk about, and so I think that good mood and that happiness just kind of translates and carries us through and keeps us positive and produces good results. And I have some good people around me, obviously, too.
Now, you Twittered at Indy that you were going to bake cookies for all the guys. I did. Are you going to hold up to that promise?
No, I already did. It's all gone. Guys, any cookies left? No cookies left. They're all gone. They were gone in one evening.
Now, you battled with Marco Andretti a little bit out on the racetrack. Show you video of you actually passing him. What was that like?
I just, lap traffic can play a role for sure. But, I just kind of, after the last stop, just thought to myself, I know this seems like the last stop and you got to go, but it was a full stint left. So you still had to take care of the tires. So, I was, going for it right away, and then I calmed down and just, took care of the tires, and I think that served me well.
Now, you had some handling issues from the start of the race. How busy were you inside the car today?
I think that I was more mentally busy. The balance of the car was okay. It was just that when I caught traffic, the car just lost overall grip and was tough to drive. So, I just really had to stay on top of it. And the more I looked after the tires earlier on in the run, the better off I was later and the easier it was. So you have to discipline yourself. So, just trying to keep my head screwed on right.
Jack, she's amazing. Not only is she an amazing driver, but she also bakes. I can't keep up.
Yeah, I'd like to have had some of those cookies, wouldn't you, Brian? But talk about bringing one home for the Marines in the top 10, a 6th-place finish for Rafa Matos. Rafa, this team, what do you see is going to be the one thing that you all need to accomplish to go to where Scott Dixon did today?
Well, the whole team is working really hard, trying to make the car as fast as possible, and I'm pushing myself every time I go to the racetrack, and I have to dedicate this result to the whole crew, the Air Force, Marines, Lucas Dragon crew. The car ran flawless all weekend long, and it was just an important result for us after what happened in Indy, and let's just try to keep the momentum going.
Now, I understand you're going to have a new crew member when you get to Texas, in Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, you're not quite as tall as Shaquille. Have you had some conversations with him?
Not yet. I'm looking forward to meeting him, and hopefully I'll be able to take him around the track and try to scare him a little bit.
Oh, Vince, I don't know if he could fit in a car, do you?
I don't think so. Marco Andretti, 7th today. Certainly a lot happier than it was a week ago after the Indianapolis 500. So assess the run that you had today.
We just needed track position. I think our car was pretty decent. You know, I think maybe the last stint I might have had a bit too much understeer dialed into it. You know, maybe a bit too cautious on my end, but I might have let the boys down. I think it was a top 5 car, but if we could have got out front, I'm pretty sure we could have stayed there. But it was one of those races where everybody took every yellow, so Kyle couldn't really do his job or work his magic as good as he normally does. So, you know, we didn't have many options today, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, top 10, and I know we talked about the disappointment of Indianapolis. How important was it for this team to get back and post a top 10 finish today?
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, you know, we just need to keep, you know, slowly climbing up and keep working, keep digging. We'll be all right.
Marco Andretti, 7th today for AGR.
All right, thanks, guys. And that is the 7 cars that finished on the lead lap out of the 20 that were entered. And take a look at his 2009 series. As in 5 races, his best has been 6, and that was twice at Long Beach and at Kansas. All right, stay with us. We've still got more here as we wrap things up and the celebration continues. Oh, and as the champagne gets ready to be sprayed all over the crew members and all the drivers on the podium, let's talk about our motorsports calendar. We've got the Roundtable Monday, 5 Eastern on ESPN2. And then NASCAR Nationwide Series action from Nashville presented by Pennzoil, 7 Eastern next Saturday on ESPN2. And the INDYCAR Series moves on to Texas. You'll see that Saturday night, 9 Eastern on Versus. Let's check in with Jackaroo, with a man who had a long day, Jack.
Oh, that is an understatement, PT, for A.J. Foyt, Paul Tracy. Not the way you wanted to debut with Supertex.
No, it was a frustrating weekend for everybody, for ABC, their home race here in A.J., and obviously, you know, we just missed the setup all weekend, and it felt like one of A.J.'s dirt cars the first stint. It was so loose. I was barely hanging on to it, but we got it better towards the end of the race, and we were running competitive times. But by then, I just had to stay out of the way and just let the leaders do their thing and come around and get by.
Everybody wants to know, will you be in the cockpit of this car when we go to Texas next week?
Well, about halfway through the race, I was thinking I had enough of this right now. So, you know, we'll talk about it. I told AJ we'll get through the race, clear our heads, and then talk tomorrow on Monday.
Hey, Marty, you want to know how confused you get when you drive for AJ? Take a look. The socks, L and R.
Yeah.
And he's got them on right.
Hey, that's half the game. I could say something, but I won't. Anyway, let's take a look at his numbers, as he's got a big list of wins, 31 in all in his open-wheel career in 266 races. And what do you think? You think he'll go to Texas next week with Supertex?
Well, I think he wants to continue doing a lot of races, but he's very competitive. He knows that maybe that car doesn't have a shot at being on the pole or running up front, so it'll be a tough decision for him. Think about Milwaukee alone here. He's led 723 laps in all the times he's been here. Not used to being in the back.
Finished 17th here today, 6 laps down. Let's check in with Brienne Pedigo. She's caught up with Dan Weldon.
That's right, Marty. Dan, you finished 2nd last week in the biggest race, the Indianapolis 500. Today, it's a top 10. Are you happy with 10th?
No, I think it's a disappointing result. You know, certainly missing the first of an hour session this weekend set us back a lot, and unfortunately we didn't roll off the truck with a good car. But, you know, at one point there we were looking pretty strong in the mid part of the race, but just didn't quite have the... you know, the car to compete with those first 3. They seemed extremely fast. So we're going to continue to work hard. And, you know, I think National Guard Panther Racing will just get stronger as, you know, as the season goes on.
You talked about the momentum from Indy carrying you here to Milwaukee. What does this do as you go into Texas?
I mean, it's obviously good to keep finishing races and not tear up equipment. So, you know, I think we can learn some stuff out of here. Certainly, you know, in a competitive series like this, we've got to make sure that we don't lose practice time again. But, you know, going forward, I think we know where we need to improve. I think we've got clear direction. We've just got to continue to develop the car to get it, you know, or get it like the top guys. And, you know, I don't think, you know, a win's out the question at all, but that's what we've got to keep working hard towards.
This was one of the fastest races we've had here at Milwaukee. How physically challenging was it inside the car today?
The steering weight of my car was incredibly heavy, a lot heavier than I've ever had before. So I think that's one of the things with joining a new team. We'll look into that and you know, see why that is the case, because obviously it's difficult to fuel the car through a heavy steering, or certainly that's the case for me. But no, I think Milwaukee's always it's always a pretty physical race. But you know, mentally you just can't make mistakes, because if you get offline and you get in the marbles, it's very difficult to recover.
You're 6th in points right now. Is it too soon in the season to start worrying about that?
Yeah, I think so for us. You know, I think we have to just approach each weekend and go for the win. You know, like I say, I think I've been impressed with the team's work ethic. You know, I don't think we quite have the same budgets as some of the top guys out there, but, you know, I can see that coming. And I think if we just keep working very, very hard and have that kind of never say die attitude, like I say, we'll be hopefully running in that top 5 of the championship towards the end of the season, and you never know what can happen.
Thanks, Dan. A solid top 10 for the National Guard and Dan Weldon.
All right, thank you very much, Marie. What do you think?
Well, you know, we've got such a competitive series going on right now. The top 5 positions, 3 top teams in those 5 positions. It's going to be a great season.
Don't forget, O'Reilly NHRA Summer Nationals going on right now on ESPN2. Next, it's on the West Coast. Stay tuned for ABC's World News or your local news over most of these ABC stations. Congratulations to Scott Dixon, our winner here at the Milwaukee Mile. And for our entire ESPN on ABC crew, I'm Marty Reed. Thanks so much for watching here on your ABC station. We'll pack it up. We'll head on down the road till we meet again.